Everyone, and thank you very much for joining us here in the newsroom. I am Yoo Li-an. Now, one of the biggest national holidays in Korea, the Lunar New Year holiday, is being celebrated here in the nation. And I'm sure some of our viewers in Korea may have traveled to their hometowns, exchanged gifts with their friends and families, and paid respect to their ancestors. But for more on how the special occasion is being celebrated here in the nation, and also stories that were aired on Arirang News this week, I had a chance to talk to some of our reporters, and here's what they had to say. In the Newsroom begins right now. All right, so is everyone excited to celebrate the 3-day Lunar New Year holiday?
Yeah.
Last year, I think we got 2 weekdays off, right? But this year it falls on the weekend, so.
Yeah, overlaps with the weekend.
So everyone's heading home this weekend, right?
Including yourself, right?
I'm going over to Busan, which is my hometown, at the southern end of the Korea, so.
Beautiful town, but I had to work on Monday as a holiday shift. But it's okay.
Lunar New Year holiday, I mean, it's a joyous occasion for a lot of us. Of course, we're going down to see our families, pay respect to our ancestors, eat traditional Korean food. But it also can be quite dreadful because of the traffic jam and overeating, oversleeping. You know?
Have to think about calories.
Right. So, the Lunar New Year holiday has been celebrated for centuries, I believe. But I'm sure the way we celebrate these days is quite different from the past. So I know that, Connie, you've been out there covering the trend of the celebration. How is it different this time?
Well, I looked into the presents this year, and now every year the popular gifts of the Lunar New Year holiday, it's different depending on the current trends and the economy. But this year, can you guys guess what the popular item might be?
Gift sets like shampoo. I mean, that's always like one of the popular ones, right?
Yeah, so apparently, I mean, everyone loves cash or gift certificates, so that's always preferred. But for people who actually buy the gifts, yeah, shampoo is popular. But from the retailer point of view, they're also pushing Hanok or Korean beef this year.
I think we had some reports about the high food prices.
Right. So I think that's why retailers are trying to push market the food gifts because it hasn't been doing so well. But in retrospect, fruits and vegetables are actually cheaper this year than they were last year because last year we had all those weather changes like typhoons that hit the Pacific, and so fruits and vegetable prices were all inflated and jacked up. But this year compared to last, they're quite cheaper.
From a box of toiletries that includes soap and toothpaste to a package of pre-cooked meat, the Seollal holiday in Korea brings with it an abundance of gift sets available for purchase. All across the nation, shopping malls, markets, and retailers make it convenient for people to pick up these gifts at reasonable prices in tough economic times. Each year, the popular gifts depend on the current trends and the economy. But for 2013, many retailers are pushing for Hanok or Korean beef. And staying with food, there's also a variety of neatly packed fruit packages, which are cheaper this year than last, when prices were inflated due to the typhoons in the Pacific.
젊은 사람들이에요? 아니면 좀 나이 드신 분들?
젊은 분들은 워시 많이 가져가시고요.
네.
좀 나이도 있으시면 비누 많이 가지고 가세요.
판매하는 이거를 더 이 위주로 한다는. 어떤 사람들이 이제 비누를 찾는지 좀.
이렇게 큼직큼직하게 들어있는 구성이 조금 더 많이 나가고 있고요. 장가 자체도.
감사합니다.
드세요?
네.
고맙습니다.
혹시 장례?
커피랑 스팸이랑. 이런 뭐 홍삼 아니면 진생 아니면 과일을 더.
과일 좋겠죠.
일단은 뭐 스팸 보고 여기 스팸도 있고 여러 가지 있는데 왜 지금
이제 조금 이제 어르신 분들한테는 이런 버섯 종류가 더 좋을 것 같아서 걸로 보고 있어요.
Yeah, so I talked to a lot of different people who are out shopping for their parents or in-laws, and actually a lot of people were looking at more healthy foods or healthy things. So like ginseng roots and tea packages were really popular, and of course there are the different anchovy gift sets or even spam or ham.
Well, Lunar New Year holiday is also the time of the year where we appreciate, something traditional like Korean food or the attire that you talked about last week, Joo-an, of course, and like folk games like yunori. It's a board game with different sticks.
Right.
But speaking of tradition, let's follow up on your story on something something that represents Korean history and Korean culture. What did you do this time?
Well, this week it was about traditional Korean house, Hanok. So, have you ever been to Hanok? And Connie from the US, do you know what Hanok is?
It's like the traditional house that Koreans used to live in back in the day, right?
Right. And in Seoul, there are many regions that have preserved many Hanoks. And one of the representative Hanok villages is Bukchon district. And they have many Hanoks and it's so beautiful. And that place has been the houses of many high officials of the Joseon dynasty, which has ruled the Korean peninsula for 600 years.
Professor Robert Fauser, the first foreign professor of the Department of Korean Language Education at Seoul National University, not only fell in love with the Korean language, but also with Hanok, the traditional Korean house. This will be Fauser's third Hanok home. He has lived in a Hanok home for 3.5 out of the last 5 years here in Korea, and he's actively engaged in preserving the traditional Korean homes for generations to come. Some Hanok villages, such as Bukchon, are pretty well preserved, but many Hanok located in other areas are at risk of being torn down as part of urban redevelopment plans. In an attempt to protect the tradition, the city of Seoul has designated 5 Hanok districts.
I went out to visit the Bukchon district to show the representative Hanok villages. And I visited this new Hanok place, recently remodeled by Professor Fauser. I don't know which of you guys remember him. He came to the studio to talk about Hangul because he is the first foreign professor who teaches the Korean language to Korean students. And he not only fell in love with the Korean language, but he fell in love with this Korean traditional house, Hanok. Oh, there's he comes in.
Hi everyone.
We're talking about Hanok.
Right. I was talking about Professor Fauser's new place. It's his third Hanok he has ever lived, and
It's his personal place.
Right, it's his personal place, and he's third Hanok place.
Wow.
So because he loves Hanok so much, he just can't live in an apartment, he said. And this place is so neat, delicate, and cute. And it's so environment friendly. All the materials are made of like paper, wood, and the air is so fresh. When you just open the window, you have this garden inside the house.
손 완전 빨개졌어요. 어떡해요? 여기는 마당? 좋다. 이런데 막 나무 키우고. 이게 화장실도. 오 와우. 오 와우. 이게 또 연결돼 있네요. 좋네.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다.
네, 저희 지금 주인도 안 계신데 저희 집 다 둘러봤습니다.
이거는 주위에 참여가 1,000만 원짜리니까
네.
현정담이고요.
그럼 교수님 영어로 대답해 주세요. 그 한옥의 매력, 어째서 한옥이 좋으신지.
There are really two reasons why I like Hanok. One is because it's a house, not an apartment. It's not an office tel. It's not, it's a house. And the other reason I like Hanok is because of the shape of the Hanok. And inside there's a garden. And that's very, very nice.
감사합니다.
촬영 겸 한옥 교육.
네, 감사합니다.
그 부엉이 부엉이 저기 촬영하십시오.
지금 서울시에는 뭐 현재 몇 채가 남아 있는데 대표적인 동네가 북촌이다라고 할 때 여기 그림이 나오면서 제 생각에는 저런 뭐 약간 걸으면서 스탠드업 하는 것도 좋을 것 같아요.
A neighborhood of Hanbok, which is the main palace of the Joseon dynasty. The district retains the ambience of a traditional Korean residence.
I actually think it's becoming a trend for like people who are looking to retire to spend their money that they've saved up to build a modernized Hanok, because my uncle actually recently built one himself in the countryside.
Right.
And I went to it in the last year's holiday season, and it was really nice. Like you said, it was modernized inside, but in the outside you just look like you're looking like a historical
and
architect.
they have like, as Chiwon said, all those little gardens, the traditional gardens that Korean like traditional houses have. So it's really beautiful at the same time, very comfortable to live, unlike the old ones.
Right. And even if it's modernized, they don't have any concrete materials, so it's really good for health. And even when I was staying there, I could feel I become more healthier. I mean, right, because the walls are made of wood and paper, which is really good, good quality. So I think it would be good for children. And it's true that the reports say more and more Hanoks are built because these days more people are seeking some health and traditions, which are also very beneficial to our health. And also when I went out to cover that Bukchon district, we ran into some Japanese tourists. It was early in the morning today, but they were very busy. I mean, they were very up early in the morning to tour around the place.
It's a very unique side of Korea, Hanok, and a lot of my friends who are very interested in Korean architecture would always come and visit that side of the neighborhood and will be awed by the wisdom of ondol, like the heating system. It's quite unusual in other countries. Speaking of tourism, right? I hear that it's quite surprising that you bumped into a lot of the Japanese there, but from the trends and the statistics that we see, we hear that the number of Japanese tourists are dwindling. It's plummeting. Why is that?
Well, it's the currency. The won is strengthening these days, especially against the yen. So actually people in Korea are actually traveling abroad to Japan more than they're coming over here because of the currency.
And I know you have lots to say because you've covered the Korean economic trend for 2013. What are some of you've covered?
Well, it was hard to put all the trends that we're going to see into just a 6-minute in-depth, but I covered some of the trends that will spill over from last year is we're going to see 2% economic growth again this year. And what makes up Korea's economy is obviously exports, right? A lot of exports and domestic demand. We're going to see slow growth in both areas. Exports, because of the currency issue that we talked about, it's looking pretty bad. A lot of companies have been suffering losses, like Hyundai, for example. I think their operating profits last quarter dropped by 10% and Kia by half. And Samsung expects to see a lot of loss from the currency issue too. Another thing is domestic demand. Because of the housing market slump that we've entered into last year, actually apartment prices dropped to a low level that was seen back in 1998, the Asian financial crisis. So, I mean, that's pretty bad. That's going to spill over to this year. So people are going to be not spending too much this year.
So maybe our parents are not going to buy any houses?
No, anytime
or
this
Hanoks?
year.
Maybe Hanok's Connie.
Right, so Lilian, you did this in an unusual way. You pre-recorded it in front of a touch screen. So how did that go?
Well, there was ups and downs. It was a new experience for me. In terms of generations, there's a major job, so the country is more exposed to exhibit slow growth in 2013. It's pushing down demand for Korean exports. The won has appreciated against of below 3%. Now, if you take a look at the potential growth rate, welfare structure, and the mid-sized companies report Hyundai Motors has seen its profits decline by over. Park's welfare programs have sparked controversy among both. Businesses like these are expected to pursue low cost has put a limit on the number twice as much as previously. Scott, I added 2 slugs to my in-depth package.
closer to
the potential growth rate, it will ultimately fall short of that once again. One of the main reasons for the prediction is the global demand continue to threaten the economy to combat the effects of externals. The won has appreciated around 16% last year after liberal detractors, large conglomerates, and small to mid-sized companies.
That's a great attempt. Yeah, the graphics and everything really did help our understanding. But like you said, more interaction with the anchors in the studio would have been nice. And us like throwing new questions, and we'll definitely try that at a sooner date. And of course, back to what you've mentioned, there are a lot of trends this year, but a lot of the changes are coming from, I think, probably because of the change of the administration. Will be swearing in the new president in less than 20 days. And one of the ambitious pledges that she made to the public was, of course, the economic democratization. And this is, of course, to support the struggling small and mid-sized firms in Korea and try to stop the abuse of the economic power of, conglomerates. We've done a number of stories in small and mid-sized firms, but yours is different this time. How so?
Yes. Well, I did an in-depth on the small and medium-sized businesses, because they take a very important role in the Korean economy and in the health of the Korean economy, but they take a very meager presence and competitiveness in the Korean economy. The number of small and mid-sized companies in Korea account for over 99% of the more than 3 million corporations registered in the country. And these companies hire nearly 88% of all employees in Korea, though large conglomerates dominate net profits and market capitalization. This is the reason why leveling the playing field for small and mid-sized enterprises has become one of the key issues ahead of the inauguration of the new government. I met a CEO of a small and medium-sized company, what they are struggling from. And that company also was suffering from difficulties that many other SMEs suffer from because of the abuse of large conglomerates. And they are, all the bashing the prices of the products that they supply to large conglomerates, and, stealing technologies and taking away the trained workforce from the SMEs to their conglomerates by providing higher wages and et cetera, et cetera. So while I was reporting, one of the most surprising factors...
Speaking of reporting, sorry guys, I have to head out for a report.
Sure.
Today,
All right. Catch you guys later. Bye-bye. Was that actually my friend received 17 million won as an incentive, and that company, and she's like a very new employee in that company, and imagine how much the CEOs would receive, and that company, that SME was suffering from like lowering the prices that they supply to the large conglomerates. So yeah, it was interesting, at the same time mind-boggling experience.
아니면 아예 사무실을 살까요? 그러고 나서 박스로
중견기업으로 성장하는데 조금 어려움이 있고, 중견기업도 이제 대기업으로 가는데 또 어려움이 있고, 이런 얘기를 하는데, 중소기업 경영하시면서 혹시 뭐 애로사항이나 어려운 점이 어떤 것들이 있는지.
중소기업은 좀 경쟁력을 갖추려면 내수도 중요하지만 수출을 좀 해야 된다고 생각합니다. 저희들은 그거에 대한 준비를 사전에.
이거는 뭐 아직까지 좀 피스케이크라는 얘기가 있어.
But it is a global exporter, slightly over $17 million. 그 이제 우리나라에서 말하는 통상 말하는 중견기업 기준이 어떻게 되나요?
이게 재작년 10월 달에 이제 산업발전법이 개정이 되면서 중견기업이 정의가 되어 있습니다. 매출로 봤을 때 약 1,500억부터 시작해서 4, 5조 대단한 그런 기업들을 얘기하고 있습니다.
그럼 2010년에 처음 이렇게 제정이 됐던 거죠? 중견기업 기준이라는 게.
그렇습니다. 한꺼번에 그 지원이 그 300조 기업이 매출 1조 원씩만 달성한다고 하면 그러니까 한국 경제가 튼튼해져서 아주 좋은 거죠.
What is more surprising is that these small and medium-sized companies are hesitating to grow further because because once they grow into a mid-sized company with sales of 150 billion won or like 140 million US dollars, they are cut with all the benefits that they used to receive when they were a small and medium-sized businesses, and that's like around like 160 benefits in number. So we call it Peter Pan syndrome, but it's very surprising.
I don't want to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to become the adult. Okay,
exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly, because they are cut with all the benefits they used to receive, and
What President-elect Park Geun-hye is trying to do is to promote shared growth, right? So that everyone can become, I don't know, at least like a mid-sized firm. But if people are refusing and hesitating to do that,
well, yeah, so President-elect Park Geun-hye is saying that she will provide a tailored support for the companies because she knows that small and medium-sized companies refuse to grow into mid-sized ones because they are all cut with all the benefits. So she's saying that she will provide all those tailored and the supports that they really need, and that she won't cut off with all the benefits. But then we'll really have to see what really goes on after the incoming administration really kicks in.
I guess the Korean government is to come up with more incentives to become, bigger companies. My friend is also working in a very small venture company, and she said the big companies, like big enterprises, are trying to stealing their technology, surprisingly. I was so surprised and really mad that this is really happening.
I know, that was the same kind of feeling that I felt when I was actually meeting the CEOs, because they were saying like they just take all the trained workforce that they have trained for like 5 or 6 years, and then they can use them right away because they know all the basics, right? So it is very severe.
well, hopefully with the start of the new administration, we can see some positive changes in the corporate sector. And of course, hopefully our Ji-hye will be able to keep track of those progress. Exactly. All right. So happy New Year again.
Lunar New Year's Day.
Yeah, exactly. Although it's awfully short, let's try to make it the best and relax and have fun with our family.
Eat a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Gain some weight.
Yeah.
High calories.
Okay. See you guys next week.
Next week. See you around.
잠깐만 이번에는 이렇게 다른 것보다는 뭐 부모님을 위해서
오늘 너무 추운데.
뭐예요?